Hey, I'm Ophi YouTube videos. I'm a lesbian and a feminist, and I've been taking a bit of a brain break lately compared to some of my previous subjects that I've been covering on this channel. The Taylor Swift video came together pretty quickly, and as I was trying to think about what other things I have that level of kind of complicated love for, what else I might want to make a video about that I really enjoy and like, but that I don't expect nearly anyone else to enjoy on the same level that I do. And I kept thinking about this ABC family show called The Fosters. Did you ever watch it? I have not rewatched The Fosters in preparation for this video. If y'all want me to, if you want like a beat for beat breakdown of The Fosters, please let me know. I will do that for you. Nobody asked me at all for the Lizzie Bennett Diaries video. I just did that one because I wanted to. But at this point before filming, I was thinking to myself, rewatching it will take me a couple of weeks, and I think I've seen The Fosters all the way through like 4 times now, at least, which is at least as many times as I have seen its spin-off show Good Trouble, which I said before is I Good Trouble is a different show, but it happens to have two and then only one of the characters from The Fosters in it. Uh, and it's interesting. I think every time I talk about it to somebody, I say like that terrible show I watched. Like it's not a show that I would recommend, but it is a show that I will watch until it's officially over, which is supposed to be soon, I think. The Fosters is very interesting because in a lot of ways, as you look at it, this is a show about two lesbians who foster a range of diverse youth, and it's a pretty liberal show, but it's also not. One of the moms, the white mom, is a cop, which is its own whole thing, though, by the end of the series, she is no longer a police officer. Uh, Something that I think comes with maybe the writer's room sort of growing up along with the audience in a way as they were going into the Good Trouble spin-off, which honestly could be its own video. The show opens with Callie being in a correctional facility. It teases out for a long time before it tells you what she did to end up getting sent there. But we meet the foster family as they are called to meet Callie and told that there's somebody who, doesn't do well with male authority figures, and therefore that's why social services thinks that Callie needs to go home with the Fosters. The wives don't really have a chance to discuss it amongst each other. Callie ends up coming home, and there's this iconic moment when the cop wife, Steph, comes home in the middle of dinner because she's working late, she's so busy, she's a cop, and Jesus, who gets recast partway through, but at this point he's still being played by Max from Wizards of Waverly Place. So the cop walks in. I don't even know if I can say this on YouTube. Uh, so like after hearing my partner, Callie realizes that, there are two moms, that these are like wives who she's staying with. And she's like, oh, so you guys are dykes? I can say it. I usually would say it louder. I just think maybe if I said it that quiet, the algorithm won't stop anybody from discovering this video. And Jesus responds, actually, they prefer the term people. And it's so fucking funny. Like, I swear to God, I told you I've watched this whole show all the way through 4 times. That does not count how many times I have watched the pilot of this show. It's so funny. It makes me laugh every single time, and it is not trying to be funny. Like, there are so many things about this show that are just so uh, Obama era ally in a way that just it tickles me. It really does. I find it very, very funny. Uh, Actually, they prefer the term people. Hilarious. Thank you, Jesus. Jesus is the only major character who gets like just completely recast throughout. The character at one point gets sent to like wrestling boarding school, and then when he comes back, he's played by Noah Centineo, the guy who was in a bunch of like Netflix rom-coms a couple of years ago, like the one about teenage girl Cyrano de Bergerac, and uh, he was in a bunch of them. Build your own date, and it's the guy, and it's Tinder, except for every date is you're getting a fake date from this boy. He like just suddenly was in the Fosters, and he was playing Jesus, who had like it was he's so much taller than the guy who has been in Wizards of Waverly Place. Uh, it's funny. But they managed to pull it off because both of the actors who play Jesus have pretty great chemistry with the actress who plays the sister, Mariana. Mariana and Jesus are twins. Mariana is very spoiled and bratty. I think she's really fun. I really love the character of Mariana, and I did not think I would the first time I watched it, especially her relationship with Callie. And, you know, Callie and Mariana have a very adversarial relationship to begin with, but then by the end of the show, they're extremely close. And I wasn't initially super sold on them even moving away together after college, but I quite liked it the way that it ended up going. So the twins had been the most recent foster placement that the Adams foster family had had, and they adopted them when they were still small children. Mariana and Jesus are very close, and originally all of the kids have their own bedrooms, but when Callie moves in, Callie and Mariana share a room, and like I said, they're at each other's throats at first, and for much of the remainder of the series. Lena is the not cop wife. She's the principal of this fancy charter school called Anchor Beach, which is very important to the plot of this show. And then Steph, the cop wife, and her former husband turned current police partner, even though she doesn't want to have to work with him, have a biological son together from before Steph realized that she was a lesbian. So that's Brandon, and he's the oldest child, and he is a total fucking piss baby, and I hate him so much. I hate him. He's one of my least favorite male leads in anything ever. He and Callie, who is now his foster sibling, have like this on again, off again thing that goes pretty much all the way until the end of the original series, and then it's just completely forgotten about in Good Trouble. Because the audience for Good Trouble is they were courting people who were not going to find that whole faux incest thing to be their thing, I think. I did not like Callie and Brandon together. Maybe even a similar plot line could have worked for me at some point. They're both like, I think 17 when they meet, or 16 and 17, and that's not really being raised together. You know, I know people got really mad about Allison and Luther in the Umbrella Academy, which I think is really, really silly because they are not siblings by like any stretch. But with as much as The Fosters is about like being chosen by a family and being adopted and that kind of family being just as strong as biological families, this desire to have it both ways with this on again, off again flirtation relationship, at one point even having sex thing with Brandon and Callie, like it just did not work. Callie also has a younger sibling who we don't fully know about for the whole beginning of the pilot. This younger brother is named Jude. He's an adorable little gay boy who like was definitely prepubescent when he was cast, and then like grows up very, very fast on the show as a result of how puberty works and also filming schedules for this ABC Family slash freeform show. Jude is like a sweet little gay boy who Callie is very, very protective of because Callie and Jude have been in the foster care system since they were very young. So Callie was like doing whatever she could to get back to him. And because this is like a boy's name, like Jude, like she makes a phone call and she's like, "Hey baby, like I'm coming to you." And everybody thinks that she's trying to like get to her boyfriend, and it's actually her little brother. I really, really like the relationship between Callie and Jude. I think they're cute. I like this kid who plays Jude. He has a sweet little crush on his like friend in school who also starts painting his nails after Jude gets punished for painting his nails. There's like a big showdown to get Jude to like come home with the Fosters. They have to go to the foster family where he had been with Callie before Callie had been sent to juvie. And we learn that Callie had been sent to juvie because she was like destroying the foster father's property because he was trying to hurt Jude because Jude was dressing up in the foster father's ex-wife's clothes. We don't really see, with the exception of the nail painting that I mentioned, we don't really see Jude continue to be like super gender bendy in that way. I think they were just looking for like an easy shorthand for like what would this piece of shit guy punish this little gay boy for, and they found it. So the cop has to go and like, you know, abuse her authority, and a lot of this is really interesting when you're watching it from the perspective of like knowing that you feel weird about when cops act outside of the law on TV and that's portrayed as like the good thing. Like Steph Foster is not some by the rules cop, and to an extent, neither is her ex-husband, current partner, Mike. Uh, but we're supposed to like that, and we're supposed to also understand these rules that she's not quite operating inside of as also being like for the greater good and that we should understand as good. I would say the fact that I didn't know what Copaganda was is really what allowed the Fosters to become such a permanent piece of media in my brain. And also just some level of me being oppositional. Because I was a teenage lesbian, as you may have guessed. I didn't come out until after I had left my parents' house, but they had suspicions that I was gay. And during one of the hours long lectures that I got, whenever those suspicions reared their head, my mother told me that I like wasn't allowed to go on any gay websites. And I was like, what do you mean, what gay websites? And she was like mad at me and she was like, I don't even have to tell you. And I was like, okay. But I didn't. I still don't know what she means. I don't know what she thought I was doing. I was just on Tumblr. Uh, and told me that I couldn't watch TV shows with gay people in them because I had been really enjoying The Fosters. I had been watching this show on MTV called Faking It that I think is probably really, really bad in retrospect. Um, my mother was like under the impression that it was seeing this like gay couple on the Fosters that was like making me gay. And, you know, probably she was identifying something in like my starry eyed gaze at the television whenever those two women are on screen together. But the Fosters definitely didn't make me gay. I don't think I would have liked it as much if I wasn't gay, though. I don't see a lot of people talk about really liking the show or having enjoyed it, and probably because there's just so much negative that outweighs the positive about it. But also, I loved it. I loved that show, and whenever I need like background noise that I pretty much have memorized and nothing on YouTube is quite hitting it, I'll figure out which streaming service The Fosters is on and I'll watch it over the course of a couple of weeks. And every time Good Trouble came back from like a mid-season hiatus or for a new season or whatever, I just started that right over from the top because I like obeyed my mother's rule. I didn't continue to watch The Fosters or Faking It. She would like turn off Food Network shows that had gay contestants in them. Uh, it wasn't until probably like 3 or 4 months after I was like fully not living under her roof anymore that I was like, oh wait, I can do what I want to do now. And that's when I started to watch The Fosters again, and it was very close to ending at that point. And then I remember watching it right after the last season finished uploading to Netflix. and then just starting it over again. For me, this show is like a kind of itchy sweater, but it's kind of the warmest one that I have. And when I'm having a really hard time, it doesn't exactly remind me of the comfort that I got out of it as a teenager before it was banned, but it does remind me of the comfort that I got out of it as a teenager to extremely fresh 18-year-old adult, realizing that I could watch it. But again, like it is in a lot of ways Copaganda, especially with the character of Steph Adams Foster. Steph like full on like does a police brutality and like shoots and kills somebody while they're not currently attempting to shoot. And then it's like brought up for this whole thing like, oh, actually, the biological mother of the twins was there and saw, and now she's like trying to extort and saying she's going to say if you don't give them money that she saw that this guy didn't have a gun. And all of this is played in a way that's not very introspective about like cops shooting people who are not armed. All of it is played in a way that's not very introspective about being like sympathetic to people who are in active addiction and struggling with that kind of thing. And you know, what do I expect from an ABC Family show, right? Like it's probably more sympathetic to people who struggle with addiction than like Seventh Heaven would be. But it is really extremely centrist compared to the way that it likes to be liberal about social issues like the gay thing when it comes to the police issue of it all. Lena, on the other hand, like I said, she is the principal at a fancy charter school, which means that the show has a lot to say about private schooling and funding and what her career path might look like that. It does have a tendency to get very special episode-y when it comes to Lena specifically. They really like using her character to make points, and they kind of do that to everyone. It does a little bit have that Glee syndrome of like you're going to have a very special episode about your identity. There are multiple trans men who are introduced for that reason, although I don't think there is a single trans woman until the Good Trouble spinoff. Though I really actually like both of the trans men who I'm thinking of in The Fosters. I really, really like what they did with the trans woman character in Good Trouble. She's the very extremely beloved sister of like one of the main love interest main characters, and she's really fun and sweet and wonderful. But both of the trans men in the Fosters are introduced for the same reason that most men in the Fosters are introduced, which is to like have a crush on Callie in a way that interferes with the Brandon thing a little bit and not be who she would ultimately end up with, which I thought that she had really good chemistry with that one guy who was actually also in the other show I wasn't allowed to watch, but not up to me. The Fosters goes like all over the place. Rosie O'Donnell is in the Fosters. If you don't already know, in real life she's like tied with advocacy related to foster care, so I guess she liked the show or just said yes when they reached out to her. She plays like this woman who runs a girls group home, and the show is not cloudy-eyed about what those kind of group homes look like. It's very clear that I mean, honestly, it's kind of like I struggle to say that it's like a scaremongering version of a group home because I haven't heard many firsthand accounts of group home situations that were good, but the framing of Girls United, the group home that Callie goes to in the Fosters, is very like, this is what happens when you're bad and all of the bad girls are here, and Callie, the nice sweet white girl who keeps like getting into trouble that's not really her fault, doesn't really deserve to be here, but also everybody else feels like they don't deserve to be here either. It's probably not the most elegant execution of the idea, but for it being ABC Family, or I guess, freeform, probably by some point while it was still airing, it it's not the worst it could be either, which doesn't feel like a lot until, again, ABC Family. I say that to say this is the same channel that Secret Life of the American Teenager aired on, and the whole point of Secret Life of the American Teenager is basically premarital sex will ruin your life and then you'll be miserable forever. Goodbye. Like that's what the show is. It's fascinating. It's I I was out of work for a couple of weeks right at the start of the pandemic because I had like massive wounds on my hands, so I couldn't wash them as frequently as I needed to and keep working. And I watched every single episode of Secret Life of the American Teenager, and I truly don't understand who it was for because, like, the really sheltered homeschooled children like me were not allowed to watch it because the main character had sex and was bad. And the secular kids, I think, could tell that it was like some kind of Mormon psyop and also weren't watching it. But it went on for so long. There are so many episodes of it. Secret Life is its own whole trip, but at least the Fosters attempts to be more progressive than that. Steph and Lena get like remarried at one point, and Mariana is like, "This is a song that I want to dedicate to my parents." And in a scene that tickles me just as much as when Jesus said they prefer to be called people, Mariana requests this beautiful song that the whole family is going to dance to at the renewal of the vows for Steph and Lena, and it is Same Love by Macklemore. Not even just the She Keeps Me Warm part. It was the whole thing. It was the Macklemore song, No Freedom Till We're Equal, damn right I support it. Like, in a way, I think that that is a wonderful encapsulation of the show itself. The show goes on to cover other things. It has like Brandon doing a performance of Romeo and Juliet that's super edgy and that I still get the music for stuck in my head all the time. And that has to be like a statement against like banning of books and trigger warnings because somebody is going to be triggered by them having Romeo and Juliet. So they have to have it off campus, and in order to have it off campus, they have it at the like warehouse owned by this rich guy who is friends with Jesus and dating Mariana, but then that guy like becomes obsessed with Mariana even though Mariana is having an on again off again thing with this guy who's dating Mariana. So like she's dating her brother's friend and it's been on and off, and then while they were off, she started dating her other brother's rich friend who has this warehouse. And then the friend whose dad has the warehouse and is like super unhinged is like jealous because the guy who's friends with the other brother is in the play. He's playing Romeo to Mariana's Juliet. And they want to get back together because they've been like in love with each other this whole time. So it turns into this like school shooting plot in I mean they provide trigger warnings for it, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm not against the concept of like showing how a relationship that a teenage girl gets into can like kind of get her over her head. um Mariana just kind of like the show treats Mariana in an interesting way. Like I said, she's very like bratty and spoiled, and the show acts like she's had a much less hard life than she has. If you think about what we know about her history and her like abandonment fears and stuff. But then also there are some times where it feels like the show does understand that she's traumatized, but then it just keeps dumping additional trauma onto her in this way that feels very like, well, Mariana should have to deal with something. And it's like, girl, she's been dealing with enough. So after having like had a gun and making her feel afraid while she was at school, he ends up like in her house and she has to talk him down. It's honestly kind of what I thought about during the scene in Barbie where Barbie is trying to talk Ken down at the very end while also rejecting him. Like, it's just uncomfortable to watch. Again, I just really like Mariana, so I might be overinvested here. Callie has a ton of different romantic partnership options, even beyond the foster brother turned adoptive brother, who she does not end up with ultimately at the end, or either of those two trans men who have crushes on her. She has like this one guy who ends up coming back and then being with Mariana because there's just a lot of double dipping between guys with those two. At one point before that, she like was going to run away so that Jude, her younger brother, could stay with the Fosters and she wouldn't like ruin it for them by having a crush on Brandon. And she like tries to run away, but the guy she's running away with feels bad, so he calls Steph, but then Steph shows up and Callie keeps running away because of all the cops. And the show very much like it always ends like right as you think that she's about to get like found by this family who loves her and like wants her. And the push and pull is really interesting, just like I think that this show, in a way that I wish that it was fond of Mariana, like at least the show is fond of Callie. Callie is a frustrating character. She's kind of like snide and sarcastic, and she runs away when it's stupid to do that. She has a really hard time trusting the Fosters when they clearly love her. But, that's like all really believable for somebody who spent such a large portion of her life in the foster care system. My understanding is that a lot of people who did actually have like experience at least like lobbying for better protections for foster children had things to do with this show, and it comes through in a lot of ways, even where the kind of centrist liberal politics fail me, which I think is another reason why I've like found so much rewatch value in this show. You can tell that the people making it care about something. And compared to Secret Life of the American Teenager, like at least that something isn't making sure teenagers know that if they have sex before they get married, they'll get pregnant and die. The final season featured like a pretty ambitious flash forward so that we could see not just Callie and Brandon's high school graduation, but also the graduation of all of the other children, and then be like out in the future when Brandon is about to get married. The final few episodes are about Brandon's marriage and their wedding and setting up for that spin-off show, which, like I said, I think goes for a slightly more liberal audience, which is probably part of why Steph like slowly moves further and further away from being a cop until she's like fully retired from that in Good Trouble, which, good for her. If you want a season by season breakdown of the Fosters, I am more than game to provide that. I just kind of wanted to talk about this weird little ABC family show. And that's what this video was. I hope you liked it. If you'd like more videos from me, you can find plenty of those on my YouTube channel or on my Patreon if you're looking for more from me. Thank you so much to everybody who has supported me on the Patreon by sending me a couple of bucks on my coffee donation account, by watching my videos all the way through to the end, commenting, letting me know what you'd like to see in the future. If you like shorter videos like this about things, or if you'd prefer me to sit on my musings until I have a few hours collected like I did with the Lizzie Bennet Diaries video, just let me know. I'm still getting in the practice of making videos and figuring out what I want these to look like, what you guys like, what I like. You can fill out my Google request form if you have an idea for something but you don't feel like commenting on it. You can find me on Twitter at Ophidokes. And you can probably, unfortunately, find me rewatching The Fosters again soon. Bye.